Hi, and welcome to upGrad's Career in Short series on machine learning and AI. I'm Rohit Ghosh, and I'm an AI researcher and founding member at Cure.ai. Today, I'll be talking in this particular video about what are the different career landscapes possible in machine learning and AI as such. Much like in entire data science, there's not really a fixed boundary which says that this is one particular career path and this is another completely exclusive career path. They kind of completely overlap, and I'll talk about how they overlap as well in a while. But broadly, that's a thing to keep in mind. These are not sort of three very unique and distinct roles. The boundaries can sort of overlap. But again, having said that, what are the three major roles that we have here? One is something called a data engineer or a machine learning engineer. Then the next one is called a machine learning researcher or AI researcher. That's sort of the role that I am personally coming from. And then the third role is sort of a data scientist kind of a role. And again, trust me, it's all really a lot of there's hype around it. Frankly, there's not really as much distinction between all of these roles. So I'll just give you a broad idea about, say, for example, what does a machine learning engineer do? What is the day-to-day work of a machine learning engineer? So who's a data science or a machine learning engineer? So a data science machine learning engineer is sort of the more hands-on guy. He's normally coming from a very strong software engineering kind of a background. So when you say, for example, log into an Amazon, right? And you see recommendations showing up as soon as you buy products. Now imagine what would have happened if that recommendations took sort of 5-10 seconds for them to load up, right? Or for example, the recommendations coming in a very different order than what you're actually seeing, right? It could mess up your experience, and that's where exactly the machine learning engineer sort of comes in. He's the guy who takes the algorithm, puts it into the production, and makes sure that the entire process is streamlined, right? The optimization for loading time, the optimization for running of the models, optimization for querying the database. All of that is basically the kind of the forte of the data science engineer, I would say. And what is normally a skill set that you would require for? Obviously, evidently, software engineering is a very, very, very important, I would say, skill set when you're looking at a data science engineer kind of a role. If you're someone who kind of can write neat codes, write good documentation, and has a very good idea about computational speeds, has very good idea about you have probably done your data science and algorithm courses very effectively, I would say, then definitely data science engineer is the path ahead for you. So computer science, if you're someone who's coming from a strong computer science background, you would definitely go for a data engineer kind of a background. Now, who's a AI researcher or a ML researcher, I would say? That's sort of the background that I come from. So AI or ML researchers are the guys who are implementing the algorithm. So when I say implementing the algorithm, what it basically means is you look at a lot of this research that is happening on a day-to-day basis. You read up research papers, you sort of implement them, you understand them, you implement them in your own way, kind of tweak your algorithms to suit whatever problem is you are supposed to solve. So that's broadly the domain of a researcher, right? Now, the researcher is not bothered about where the data is stored, how the optimization of that entire process would look like. Again, this sort of overlaps. I mean, as a researcher, you could also be concerned about some of those things. But broadly, when the industry is talking about the researcher role, that's what it sort of looks like. And normally, these guys are normally coming from a strong maths kind of a background or strong previous some kind of computer science research background, because this sort of a role requires you to have a lot of curiosity and a lot of creativity, right? Curiosity because you have to be reading up research papers day in, day out. That's sort of your bread and butter. And then creativity because you have to also innovate, right? You have to innovate for your particular problem that you have at hand. So all of that understanding is something that is central to our data, a machine learning researcher's role. So a machine learning researcher would be completely someone who would be familiar with the most recent techniques in artificial intelligence, the most recent paper that is out there, and he would be also be innovating some of those things for for the particular role at hand. And then thirdly, what you normally call is a data scientist. And now again, this is sort of a blurred line. There's not really something called a there's not a very much huge distinction between a data scientist and a ML researcher per se. But data scientist by general, the usage of the term comes from more of a business sort of a background. So business analyst kind of a background. that you normally have for data scientists. So these are, if you are looking at some of these broader e-commerce organizations, or where you don't really require someone to be innovating at the edge of the research, so you don't need to be reading papers day in and day out, but you still need to be sort of familiar with machine learning algorithms that exist. So basically you are solving problems that are not like extremely difficult, but you're sort of solving problems that are on the go required, and you can just kind of work on a problem for 5-10 days, get some results, use it for getting business insights from them. That's what mostly a data scientist is responsible for. Again, this role is something that is suited mostly for someone, you don't need to be as hands-on with software engineering, neither do you need to be as hands-on with doing cutting edge research. So this is sort of something that is a very, very sweet zone for most of the people around here, because it's really easy to get in, and once you get into the data scientist role, you can from there either transition into a data science machine learning engineer kind of a role, or you can transition into an AI researcher kind of a role. But normally when you're starting out in any part of your career, it's much easier if you're someone who's not have a strong you don't have a strong software engineering background or a strong maths kind of statistics kind of a background. It's very easy to kind of get through starter roles in data scientist kind of positions, and then from then on choose your journey, and you can transition into whichever way you like. That's broadly the landscape that we have for data scientist, or I would say in machine learning or AI. That's a broad careerscape that we have. But then again, it goes without saying, as I already mentioned, that these are sort of very blurry roles. There's not really a real distinction between any of these roles. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions or if you have any doubts, please write down in the comments below, and we would be more than happy to answer them. Thanks. And if you found this video useful, like, share and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back with more such amazing content. Also, if you want to learn new skills or move ahead in your career, check out upgrad.com.